Nero, Emperor of Rome, has gone down in history as one of the most infamous and terrifying rulers that ever lived, and it's no surprise when you look at what he did to his own wife. The year before, Nero had wed a beautiful, cultured woman named Poppaea Sabina. She was intelligent, a patron of the arts, and the two seemed devoted to each other. But then she died suddenly, allegedly from pregnancy complications. Grief-stricken, Nero became obsessed with reviving her, not in spirit, but literally. You see, there was a man named Sporus, a mere 14 years old and strikingly similar in looks to Poppaea. And Nero, overcome with an almost childlike fixation, decided to make this boy his new wife. He lavished expensive gifts upon him, dressed him up like a woman, and paraded him around taverns. He also shackled him to chariots like a horse, and when he wanted to humiliate him, he forced Sporus to lie on the ground while he whipped another slave, urging them on with commands like, "Lick him clean." But the most shocking thing came after Poppaea's death. When Nero went to her tomb, he dragged Sporus along. At the funeral, he placed the boy on the pyre alongside the coffin and set fire to both, declaring that he was burying his wife. A funeral turned into a bizarre sacrifice where a living person was nearly burnt alive. It was too much for even Rome to stomach. But when they looked at Nero, they saw a powerful, charismatic leader who had the whole empire at his command. What was he thinking doing such a thing? How did he find solace in this twisted love affair? Let's get to the bottom of it. When Poppaea Sabina died, it was a devastating blow to Nero. His mother, the formidable Agrippina, had orchestrated their marriage in the first place, and now that she was gone, along with his wife, Nero felt alone. In fact, he was so distraught that he started wearing black and stopped bathing. Clearly, he was head over heels for her. But there was a problem. In order to secure the marriage, Nero had actually divorced his previous wife, a beautiful ex-slave named Pythagoras. And although he had only been with Pythagoras for a few months, he still felt pangs of guilt for leaving her. And if he married again so soon after Poppaea's death, it would look as if he wasn't taking her loss seriously. So he needed a solution, something to alleviate his grief without making it seem disrespectful to his dead wife. And that's when he met Sporus. He was just a slave, most likely purchased by Nero for some sexual favor, and he bore an uncanny resemblance to Poppaea. But what started as a fling quickly turned into an obsession. Nero bought him lavish clothes, jewelry, and expensive perfumes. He put him on display at taverns, driving around in a chariot while Sporus rode on top like a horse. It was degrading, yes, but perhaps Nero thought he was honoring his late wife by keeping her memory alive. And then he took things a step further. He arranged a wedding ceremony and proclaimed Sporus the new Poppaea, the Empress of Rome. Talk about a slap in the face to anyone who had loved Nero's actual wife. But then the shocking incident at the funeral happened. Today, we can only speculate what went through Nero's mind during that funeral pyre. But we do know that he treated Sporus like a living doll, dressing him in elaborate garments, decorating him with precious stones, and at times forcing him to dress as a woman. While others might have seen it as a desperate attempt to replace his deceased wife, Nero genuinely believed he was resurrecting her, turning back time and restoring what he had lost. To him, it wasn't about lust or sexual gratification. It was about rewriting reality itself, ignoring all evidence to the contrary. And that's a glimpse into the disturbing psychology of a tyrant. Now here's the thing. Most of us can relate to the pain of losing someone we love. We've all experienced grief, whether it was a close family member, a pet, or maybe even a friend. But what sets Nero apart is his inability to accept reality. Instead of moving forward, he tried to rewrite it, replacing one woman with another and refusing to acknowledge the permanence of death. Even in ancient Rome, people understood that death was irreversible. But Nero surrounded himself with enablers who went along with his delusions. Sporus was at the center of it all, forced to play the role of the empress while enduring horrifying punishments. But he wasn't the only victim. Poppaea never got the proper burial she deserved. Her body was violated, her memory tarnished by Nero's obsession. It was a tragic turn of events for someone who had once been celebrated throughout the empire. In fact, the very concept of a ruler acting this way was shocking to the Romans. They were used to emperors being larger-than-life figures, powerful and, yes, often cruel. But Nero's actions crossed a line. They questioned how someone who commanded such power could be so consumed by personal grief. It wasn't just about Poppeia's death. It was about the lengths Nero would go to keep her alive, even if it meant sacrificing everyone around him. But how did he keep a straight face while parading Sporus around as the empress? How did he deceive himself into believing this twisted fantasy? Well, think about it. For Nero, it wasn't a boy dressed as a woman. It was Poppaea, his beloved wife, brought back to life. He didn't see a slave shackled to a chariot. He saw a noble steed pulling his carriage. And when he looked into Sporus's eyes, he didn't see fear or sadness. He saw love and devotion. You could say that Nero was living in a world of his own, a world where death had no meaning and Poppaea would live forever. And while it sounds crazy, it's a testament to the power of delusion. For centuries, people have debated whether Nero was truly mad or just plain evil. Perhaps the answer lies somewhere in between. His actions were irrational, self-destructive, and cruel. Yet they were also those of a man in love, albeit in a twisted and unhealthy way. He wasn't the first person to lose his mind over love, and he certainly wouldn't be the last. But what sets his story apart is the scale of his madness. He wasn't just a man in love. He was an emperor, a leader whose every whim could become law. In his quest to revive Poppaea, he ignored the feelings of those around him, including his own mother, who had been instrumental in the marriage in the first place. He didn't care about the whispers in the streets or the shocked faces of his court. In fact, Nero seemed to revel in the chaos he created, deriving pleasure from the very disruption he caused. It was as if he wanted to tear down everything around him just to prove he could, regardless of the cost. And yet, for all his cruelty and obsession, there was a tragic side to Nero. Beneath the powerful facade was a man consumed by grief, unable to move on from the loss of his wife. He wasn't just evil. He was also deeply flawed, capable of great love and unimaginable pain. While he may have failed to escape his own mortality, he succeeded in creating a legacy that has endured for centuries. Every tale of Nero reminds us of the fragility of human nature, showing us the fine line between greatness and madness. So, was Nero simply mad, or was he trying to rewrite reality itself? Well, maybe the truth lies in the eyes of the beholder. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more such amazing stories. See you next time.